Thank you for listening to Fem Talk 89 FM. We are on air in Suva, and it is time for another episode of this new season of Radio with Pictures on MyTV. Thanks to the support of UNDP's CAFE program, supported by the European Union, DFET, and the International Women's Development Agency, as well as Oxfam.
Welcome back to another episode of Radio with Pictures, where we're talking to women leaders from the Central Division. We've reached out to women with our Fem Talk 89 FM transmission reach from Navua to Nosori. And so we're going to welcome Vasimava Ketewai from the Vunivi Methodist Women's Group, Keasi Lako Ena Langi Langi. Keasi is from the Delina Vesi Women's Club. We have Sashi Mani from the Suva Sangha Mothers Club, and Audrey Seru from Diva for Equality. And Audrey hosts a show on Rainbow Connections on Fem Talk 89 FM on Wednesdays. Now, in the last two episodes of Radio with Pictures, we've heard about the potential of women's leadership to break through the barriers in terms of just being able to be heard, to participate, particularly when it comes to community level planning. And that this is critical when we see, when women are seeing and having to cope with environmental damage caused by industrial and commercial development, some going back almost 50, 60 years, as in the case of Nosori village, or more recently, the destruction of mangroves in the Drowny Tomba Bay in Wailekutu. Young women need to be consulted and heard on their priorities as well, including access to sexual reproductive health and rights services and information. And youth unemployment in urban and rural communities is having a negative impact on social and community well-being. Vasimava, these issues, are they what you're seeing in your community, or are there other issues that you're also addressing as a member of your club?
From my community, yes, we are seeing the same things, and I'm also today addressing domestic violence from our community.
What's causing the violence? We heard from Rajni Kumar from WinNet in an earlier episode of Radio with Pictures, and Alicia, that it's connected to economic insecurities, or the changes that are going on, or the lack of jobs. So what's causing the domestic violence in your community?
Vinaka Sharon, yes, there's unemployment, there's high cost of living, there's teenagers getting married early at a very young age, which is causing all this domestic violence, and also the excessive amount of cover abuse.
Okay. Is it also that I would assume most of the perpetrators would be men, that women are women going out and reporting the violence?
Most of the time, no.
Oh, why not?
Because most of the time we go down to the station, there are men there, and I feel that they do not understand us more. And other times, if we call, there are no vehicles for them to come to the community immediately to respond. And I think that it's just men are just not. What can I say?
They're not being responsive as the police. But if we come back to the men in the community, there's been a lot more focus recently, for example, the Crisis Center, even the Methodist Church of Fiji, taking on the issue of preventing violence against women and children. Why do you think this continues, though? Why do you think men feel that they have the right to just respond with violence if there is a problem or there's an issue that they're unable to deal with?
I think that they think that they are more in power than women, that we are the weaker gender. And being from a Christian family, it's always said that the men are head of the household. So I could
argue that Christianity does not always say that men are only the head of the household, being Christian myself, but is that what society is telling them, that women should be seen and not heard like children?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so what do we need to change then? We can't continue to live in violent situations.
Yes, Sharon, I think that there should be more gender sensitivity in the police force.
Okay.
Train more women to help out during these kind of situations. Because I think that men just do not understand us when we come there and explain to them and complain that we've been assaulted or we've been threatened. And I think more women should be in the workforce just to help us out. Women understand women more better.
So that's after the violence takes place. How do we prevent the violence? Maybe I'll come to you, Kay. I see you listening to what Vesamada said. And that there is a connection of sometimes economic insecurities in the families causing violence. But how do we prevent this violence, in particular in terms of the power play, the negative power, that when men feel that they have the right to hit women and children? How do we stop that?
The way we can stop this violence against women is bring more awareness to men. And that's the only way that we can prevent violence.
You can give all the awareness in the world, like you can have pamphlets, you can watch our programs, you can listen to our community radio station, but what's going to change that conditioning that men are the heads of the household and they rule? So what would the awareness do? If you were to change one man, how would you do that?
Actually, Sharon, myself, I'm married, but I usually come across this violence. But the only way I can do is just sit down and pray and fast and give more advice to my husband.
What is the advice that you're offering to your husband? How do you talk to him? Because this is really important in terms of it's something that's very close and personal to you. So what do you try to communicate to him?
Well, I try to communicate to him by saying that the thing that he's doing is wrong, and I know it's changing him. And I, as a woman, I really appreciate it because I know it's been a long time now that I've never come across again.
So he's stopped,
Yeah.
The violence has stopped, and it's about communication.
Yeah.
When you were having these problems, what was causing it? What were some of these root causes of the kind of violence that you experienced?
I guess it would be communication breakdown. And one is...
Over what? Over the household budget, about his work, about general issues?
Yeah, it's about general issue.
Okay. So communication is really very important in terms of reaching and being able to communicate that we need to communicate less violently.
Yeah.
But we also need to reach out and communicate to the men that they shouldn't be responding with violence when they're feeling pressure of many things. Yeah. You talked about economic security as an issue for your club, the Delainavesi Women's Club. Is it connected in terms of what women like yourselves are experiencing at home? What do you mean by economic security?
What I mean about economic security is high cost of living. I know it's a general issue, but to elaborate more on the high cost of living, it's not about general issue. It's about food. It's about our needs and wants.
For your family, your husband goes out to work?
Yeah.
Are you working, or what do? You manage the home and the children?
I manage the home.
Okay. What's the household budget looking like now compared to a couple of years ago? How much does your husband have to be able to earn to meet the needs of your family?
Actually, not much, but he's earning like 300 to 400 per week, and we don't have a lot of bills. And only I can say from my perspective is that I'm speaking about other women.
Yes.
Not myself only.
Okay. So for the other women, how much are their families earning? What's their income to feel that kind of pressure in terms of the high cost of living?
In terms of the high cost of living, recently it increases to $2.32.
That's the minimum wage.
Minimum
Is that
wage.
enough?
And from my point of view, that's not enough.
40 hours a week, you're only going to earn about $80.
Yeah, it's only like buying 4 kg of rice, 4 kg of sugar, and after that, the money is not enough.
So people aren't able to save.
Yeah.
And in terms of school expenses, health expenses?
I know that school fees and books are free, but to put a 3-day meal on the table is not enough. Like you have to go and look for food for us women to satisfy our family needs.
So given in the Deline Avesi Women's Club, as you said, you're speaking on behalf of a number of women. How much does a family need right now to be able to provide those healthy meals for breakfast, lunch, dinner, school lunches, to meet all the other expenses? How much should a family be earning?
200 to 250.
Thank you so much, Keasi. Sashi and Audrey, you've heard what Vasamada and Keasi have talked about. Are these the same issues that you're hearing in your networks, in addition to the health priorities that you want to talk about?
As far as health is concerned, I'm basically looking at the issues on medications available at the health centers. Yes, this is also the problem because medication at the health centers is not enough most of the times. And if medication is not available, then patients have to go and purchase at the pharmacies, which is really very expensive. And that again leads to poverty. It also has an impact on that. Like, a pharmacy, some of the medications can be like $70 or $80. Really expensive, and if the families are not earning enough, it's really hard to purchase.
So minimum wage $2.32 an hour, families struggling to make $200 to $300 a week. So this free medicine supply is very important, but it's got to be available. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, it is very important.
I'm wondering, Sashi, in terms of the Sangha Mothers Club here in Suva, whether, like Vasamada and Keasi, you also are addressing issues of violence against women and children.
Yes, we are.
What are you seeing as the causes?
Actually, when we look back at the community, we always encourage a lot of women out there, especially in our areas, especially in our clubs. Like, there are a lot of members, but they don't come and participate. We go to their homes, visit them personally, and get them out of their homes. Sometimes they come, we say that we're paying your fare, like the bus fare. If you have to come, please come and discuss issues with us and be ready to talk to them. Sometimes they come, but there is so many women out there, they just hesitate to come up. We go to, as I said, we do home visits, we reach the community and try to we run workshops too. We get people from different areas, like women who are at really high decision making levels, to come and address issues like from health centers, from different areas. But they do come, but not most of the time. They're hesitant. Yeah.
Okay, Audrey, I'm going to come to you. We've heard the issues in terms of personal security, economic security, and the connection to health security as well. Diva for Equality, it's an important collective. You run a radio show. Are you addressing these issues as well? Are these the range of issues affecting women across all diversities?
Yes, it does.
And what do we need to do to address it, given that we're talking about the National Development Plan and the national budget?
Well, if it comes to violence against women, I would say we should start off from a family. I think the only way forward we can teach our children nowadays is to teach them how not to hurt their women when they grow up. That is just not right to hurt women. And also I am thankful with the Ministry of Education where they are starting to educate from primary school for the sexual education? Yes. Okay. And I am very thankful that they have come up with that. And to us it's a great fight. NGOs has been fighting for that for a long time. And this would be a great way forward.
What are you seeing as some of the root causes of this violence?
To me, some of the root causes would be the abuse of in their childhood. So that's how it's affecting them now. And
So it's the cycle
yes,
of violence
it's a cycle
just
of violence.
continuing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do we communicate this? Because we can talk to a development planner about economic issues, about health issues, but for them to be able to understand that the root causes of violence is a development priority. A couple of years ago, the Fiji Women's Crisis Center actually put a couple of $1 million, the cost of violence in our country, together with the Reserve Bank. So as we look at the National Development Plan, how do we ensure that development is not causing violence? Audrey?
I would say, well, there's a lot of issues when it comes to the national developing plans. But when it comes to violence and you link it to national development plans, it's basically on...
it's all connected, isn't it?
It's all connected.
So,
it's all linked together.
Yeah.
And
So if you were to explain it to someone in national development that you've got to do the right kind of development because it's going to cause violence, otherwise, it could result in this kind of economic pressures in families, the kind of attitudes that need to change. What would be your one statement?
I would say you gotta come up with an employment structure for youths because that can lead to violence also.
Okay, so because we are hearing that
Yeah.
the high level of youth unemployment is resulting in these social problems. Thank you. Sashi, in terms of Suva Sangam Mothers Club and the need to resource health, what would you say is the cost that an individual, or what type of budget allocation is needed in terms of the free medicine? How should they budget for it?
In terms of families, basically they could budget it. Like, it is very difficult in families to budget it if the medication cost is really high, but if it is available freely in local pharmacies, like local health centers, they probably could probably take stocks. If there is low medication supply, people in the pharmacies, like health centers, have to advise like the reserve pharmacies to get the supplies in time. It's mostly the problem is the supply of medications in the health centers. So reserves have to be advised, like medication has to be there on time. Right?
But we also need to make sure that the national budget is allocating enough money
definitely,
to be able to have this supply.
Yeah. More budget allocation in the medication sectors.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Yes.
Coming to you, KRC, in terms of the National Development Plan and national budget, what do you want to see addressed so that families feel economically secure? What should be in the budget and in the plan?
Well, I want the government to not include tax on groceries.
Removal of VAT. Tax.
Yeah.
So remove the VAT from basics.
Basic needs.
Which basic food items would you be saying VAT free?
It would be meat, especially on our daily foods that we are used to eat.
Okay, so we need to see price control measures such as the removal of VAT. How then would government make its money?
Well, it's up to them.
You mentioned also the minimum wage, $2.32. Is that enough? Should we see the minimum wage increase?
Yes,
How
probably $5 an hour.
At least $5
Yeah.
an hour. Okay. Vasamada, coming to you, in terms of dealing with this issue of personal security, the prevention of violence, Audrey has made the suggestion or the recommendation that we need to deal with the unemployment issue for young people. But in terms of our heads of households and the older men, what do we need to do to ensure this kind of security for women in their families?
I think that there should be more awareness for them. I know that more awareness won't do much, but we need to change their mindset on how they look at women, because I believe that they might be the head of the household, but women are the neck. We support the head. And I believe that where the neck turns, the head will turn.
I'm going to come straight across to Audrey on that one. I'm sure she has an opinion. Are we the neck or are we the head, Audrey?
I would say women are the leader in the family.
Okay. So how do we promote this in terms of even amongst ourselves to say, yes, we can be leaders, we are leaders?
How else can we promote it? We are actually taking action in a household. Men can be the head of the family, but when it comes to the leading role, it is the women who takes control, and the men listen to the women in the house.
Okay, so in earlier episodes, we heard about the need for healthcare to reach communities. There was concern about poor access for maternal healthcare. We've heard about the need to improve infrastructure, whether it's roads, drainage, electricity, access to water, particularly in rural centres as well, shipping for some of our coastal communities, and the limited access to markets, not just in terms of the women who go and sell at the market, but in terms of handicrafts, agriculture, or fisheries. And that, of course, we're completely underrepresented when it comes to local government. So coming to you, Vasamada, with all of these issues affecting women across Fiji, what would you see as the solution to support women's participation in local government and local governance?
I think that there should be women in leadership, taking up leadership roles, because I believe that women are mothers, are nurses, are teachers first, and who better than to understand what women go through, and also in disaster management leadership roles as well, because most of the time it's the women who are affected during disasters. If there's a flood or a cyclone, and we all have to go into an evacuation center, women have to look after their children, where to sleep, and most of the time we are going through menses at that time, and then if sanitary pads are available and what other things that we think about. We just think about a lot of things. We multitask. And I think that it's better to have more women in decision-making levels.
So what are the barriers? Why is it that even though women are leading, we've got some amazing club leaders in our network here in the Central Division, in the North, in the West, but what are some of the challenges? We heard, in a previous episode from Shalini that they're not being given that opportunity to go out. They're being told, don't go out, even though they're educated. So is it in the family? Is it in the community? Is it the self that's creating barriers?
I think that it's mostly the family support and the community support. And from my community, I think that we all come in and share our issues. We take it up to our to our leaders. But from the district advisory councillors' side, I don't think that they are doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, coming out into the communities and listening to our issues, because they are the only people that from our communities are the ones that we go to, and then he's going to take it up with other government organizations. So I think that
we need more women as advisory councillors,
yes,
right?
as well, yes.
We talked a lot about 50-50 KRC ahead of the national elections in 2014. But for local government, so for example, you live in Delainavesi, your first point of contact would be the Lami Town Council. If we were to see town council elections, how could we support women to be elected as town councillors?
Well, what I could say is for women, for leaders, to be there, out there. Mostly women that are famous in our country have been unrecognized. But what I want to do is for the town council is for them to bring them up and be recognized.
And how could we do that? Where do we find these women?
In our communities, especially in our communities, in our clubs, especially in our clubs, because some of us here are women's leadership in our clubs.
Okay. Sashi, for the Suva Sangam Mothers Club, how would you support more women to, for example, be elected into the town council?
We can basically go outreach the community, all the women out there. There's a lot of educated women out there. Try to encourage them and get them out of the communities and maybe make members to our clubs, and then maybe support them and get them into advisory positions and more high-level decision-making roles. That could help our community as well.
Okay. Audrey, DIVA as well as FemLink Pacific's Young Women's Leadership Team are part of the co-conveners of the Fiji Young Women's Forum. We're also part of the Fiji Women's Forum, but at the last Young Women's Forum, you looked at supporting young women's participation, not just in terms of being elected in Parliament, but also at local government level. How can young women be supported to be part of these decision-making processes, not just as voters, but actually to be elected?
I think the way we can increase young women to be, in more participation roles, is to involve them in these kind of forums, especially the Fiji Young Women's Forum. We have so many young women's programs going on around here, and this is the way we can build them up to try and take leadership. For the Fiji Young Women's Forum, we are so thankful that more than 5 young women who wants to stand up for the elections, for the 2018 elections that is coming up. And we are so glad that we have more than 5 young women that wants to stand up for the...
What about at local government level, the town councils, where issues to do with drainage, health services, transportation even are organised, or the advisory councils? How do we get young women into those positions, in if you want, more sort of rural settings?
I think it should start from our community to get young women together to work together and discuss what are the issues and take it up slowly with whoever is in a lead role or who is in charge. And that's the only way we can move forward with young women's participations in the future.
Sashi, I'm just interested to know, for the Sangam Mothers Club, do you have a specific program to support young women?
We don't really have a specific program, but we try to encourage even the young girls, like they're schooling above 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, to come and participate in the club activities. We're running a lot of activities like fundraising. We're running a small canteen as well. We support people in need. Communities in need, they can always come. Like, we go and help in the Squatter areas. We look, go and reach communities, like if they need help, like in terms of groceries and things like that. In terms of small amounts of fund, not large amounts of fund, we reach the community, but they have to come and let us know if there is any problems out there and discuss things with us. And we run meetings, like monthly meetings, and if they're able to come up and discuss issues, we're also willing to run workshops to help them, come up.
Very quickly, KRC and Vasamada, how can we see young women and older women working better together?
I think that the more that they sit together, invite young women into the clubs, give young women time to share their issues and whatever they want to see that has to develop within the club. And I think that's the way that more young women can join clubs.
KRC?
Just like Vasimad has said, bring more young women into forums or consultation like this, which they can better their skills, and that's it.
On that note, we're going to end this episode of Radio with Pictures. Thank you so much, Audrey Seru and Sashi Mani. Thank you also, Keasi Lakwena Langi Langi. Thank you for sharing your story and being part of this conversation. And of course, Vasamada Ketawai, thank you so much for catalyzing a lot of our conversation. Don't forget to join us for another week of Radio with Pictures at the same time next week. Naka.
Thank you, Sharon. We will be back the same time next week for another episode of Radio with Pictures. And don't forget to tune in to Fem Talk 89 FM Suva if you're living in the Nosori Navua corridor, or Fem Talk 89 FM Lambasa from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. weekdays in Lambasa town.